Right, interesting show today. It started off with a minor disagreement on Discord, had the potential for some real fireworks, but
I
turned
know.
out to be a fairly reasonable discussion, I think.
I
So
think
quite
I think we
disappointing
built it
in a
up.
lot of respects. Yeah, we do touch on a few fairly philosophical topics. So stick
Hmm.
around for that if you can make it. Also, John again not with us.
Yeah.
Really strange one this week.
Another
So
weird update on John for sure.
yeah, we
But
just, I mean, I think he may have gone too far this time.
yeah,
But
hopefully we have him back for tomorrow, for Friday morning. But we'll
I don't know if
see.
he's going to be able to get that reversed. But
Yeah,
doctors can do
he's been on a
miracles these
tear.
days. So
All right.
yeah, check it out.
Peter, we've been waiting all week to fight about this story from the New York Times. What young workers miss out without the power of proximity. And your favorite bit is one of the first major studies on remote work shows a hidden penalty of flexibility, less supervision.
Okay. Speaking of proximity, we should just cover a couple of things before we get stuck into this because it could get violent. First of all,
I hope so.
I saw John again this morning. I don't know what is up with that guy. Yeah.
Early in the morning?
Relatively speaking. We've had some interesting appearances from him over the past week, but today I think was the most bizarre of all. He has gone out and gotten like genuine. He looked fairly normal, a bit sort of like had a leather jacket on and his hair sort of slicked back, but he's actually gotten surgery and had like implants. And I mean, this isn't just makeup. This is like real
like
stuff
cybernetic kind of stuff. Cyborg.
Yeah, he answered his phone by talking to his wrist.
What?
And he had a gun as well, which was a bit scary. I didn't know. I think it was just it looked real. I mean, I'm sure it must have been a prop. He said he'd just come from the airport. So
in the UK, I thought you couldn't have guns. That
I don't see them that often. They're kind of scary.
Huh.
So sort of freaked me out. I hope he's okay. I just hope he's back to normal the next time we see him, because he definitely has seemed to be on several missions. Anyway, good luck to him. So what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this story is about kind of the work from home versus return to office debate. And they're talking about some study findings that say people who don't return to the office are missing out on some things in some cases. So the examples they use a lot of times have to do with feedback. If you're a junior person, you don't get the mentorship, you don't have access to the feedback. They talk about having the social interaction with other people on the same team in real life. And I think what you really bristled at was the idea of the less supervision.
There was a couple of things that there was a couple of sort of surface level things. There was a bit in the subtitle which said one of the first major studies on remote work shows a hidden penalty of flexibility, less supervision, and I that word penalty really kind of bothered me because a lot of people would say that less supervision is not a penalty in any way. But you compared it to titles on YouTube videos, and I think it's very much that. The word penalty only appears once in the article and it's there.
Yeah.
So it was definitely
the idea of supervision. And I think, it's from the New York Times, so obviously it's going to be framed with a pro-establishment bias, a pro-corporate bias. The readers of the New York Times are more likely to be business owners and executives than work from home employees, I imagine. So they're catering to their audience for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think the real kind of point of the article, and actually, as you said, it's not a bad. You said it's a well-written article. I'd say not bad. Just because maybe I don't agree with it, so I'm less positive about the thing overall. Is that it's not that I don't agree. It's a bit more subtle than that. Anyway, the point is that you get less interaction with people and less feedback.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, if you take everything at its bare minimum, true, right? If you just have an office with no changes to like pre-pandemic levels and a Slack server where a company does stuff online, yeah, okay, that's true. Okay. The thing that gets me about it is that it assumes that zero effort has gone into recognizing that this is an issue and fixing it for remote companies. And I think that a decent company is going to say, okay, we need to pay more attention to these things, and we need to do things that make them not such a problem. And I don't think you're ever going to get parity to the kind of interaction that you would get in a real office environment. But, you know, the upsides of having remote working outweigh the downsides of not having that kind of instant feedback that you would get from being around other people.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say, you know, working at home will never be the same as working from an office. And a lot of people would say, well, the benefits far outweigh the negatives because I'm more productive. I don't have to commute. I can still talk to people on Zoom. And, you know, this is just how I prefer. I like the convenience. I like the flexibility. I like all these things. I think the one thing that I feel is always underrepresented is the actual importance of human interaction, like physical human interaction. And you cannot get that from home. I saw a study recently that talked about how as humans, we react to other human faces in very specific ways in person, but you could be looking at somebody on Zoom and we don't have those same kinds of reactions, even though you're looking at the same person, but you're not there with them physically. The way we design, the way we interact with each other has evolved over thousands of years, and it's not virtual. It is a different thing. And you could say, well, that's the new normal where it's all going to become this. Great. But that's not how we are today. And it's going to take, you know, maybe it doesn't take us another 1,000,000 years or even another 1,000 years, or maybe even not 100 years, but it's definitely going to take more than 10 years.
I can't disagree. I have to say, I think that I was thinking about evolution when you were talking about that, because the latency, although it's very small, you know, hundreds of milliseconds, the reaction time, our brains have evolved, and our audiovisual system, our eyes and our ears and everything have evolved to work at certain levels of latency. You know, sub 10 milliseconds, around 20, 30 milliseconds or something like that for us to receive the signals to our brain from our eyes. And that's how fast we react to things. And, you know, even on these recordings, we have a thing where we talk over each other a fair amount. And it's mostly, I think if we were in the same room physically, we wouldn't have that issue so much. Probably we'd still talk over each other a bit because, you know, I hate it when you're wrong and I just need to correct you immediately. But that's, you know, that's just a standard amount. But we do it more often, I think, because we don't have that kind of instant feedback, even though it's not actually instant. But I think it's about adapting to different environments, different ways. So another thing I was thinking, and forgive me for rabbiting on here a bit, but it's a bit like, oh God, I'm quite a fan of the stretch metaphor, aren't I? It's a bit like a notepad. When you have a piece of paper and a pen, you have so much flexibility in what you can do with those simple things. You can draw shapes, you can draw a picture, you can write notes. The notes can be in any format. You can highlight and bold. You can, you know, you have so much ability to do that. And all these different office programs that we have are really just complicated ways of replicating that. It's never going to be as flexible or as useful as actually having a pen and a piece of paper in front of you. Like, even when you have an actual tablet, there's still some limitations to what you can do compared to pen and paper, I would say. And most people don't have that. But we've still adapted to using these tools and found other ways to make them useful and more productive than a pen and paper and notepad. The fact that you have backups, the fact that you can have multiple copies, you can have collaborative environments, that you can have, you know, you can draw perfect circles, you can fill it in with, you know, there's all these other advantages we get from computers and those kind of things.
What you lose in flexibility, you make up for in other ways, scale, you know, automation. Yeah. And I think it falls into kind of two categories. There are behavioral differences, I don't interact with this thing the same way that I interact with a computer. I don't interact with you virtually the same way that I interact with you in an office. And then there's also I guess I want to say biological, meaning just the way our brains work to interact with other people. And there are things that are very much hard coded in our brains to work with human faces in person, human touch, critically important to the way we develop. Like those things are just not going to change rapidly. And part of the argument I always make for back to work, back to the office, and I'm work from home, I love it. But if you work remotely and all your friends are on Discord and you never interact with somebody physically in real life, that is a detriment to the individual. And I mean, there's no way around it. Could you say like, oh, but I can live a happy, normal life? Well, yeah, okay, I guess. But you are definitely missing out on part of the human experience by not getting access to those parts of life. And so I think that's my concern is people downplay that and just say, yeah, but I like working from home. I like the flexibility. Why should I go to the office? Okay, fair enough. It's not just about the transactional aspects of the job, though.
Well, I mean, from the company's point of view, yeah, it is. That's all they care about in the end, right? You're always going on about how corporate capitalism is just about making the most money, and if they get what they're paying for, then that's what they care about, right? From a company's point of view, this work from home side.
As a person in a company, that's still part of your dynamic. Like for most people, work is their biggest opportunity to be social, and if I lose that because now I'm doing it at home, then I'm missing that in my life.
It's the same reason that companies pay any attention to burnout, though. Yeah. If they spend money on corporate retreats and meditation and stuff like this, because they want the companies to not like basically die off before the company has extracted as much value as they can from them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they should also care about the well-being of the employees, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because they want to make money from them.
Sure, but I'm not. So if we think about this article, go ahead. Sorry.
So that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about just it being ways to adapt. I think one thing I like doing is I go out every day for a cup of coffee, even though I have a coffee machine in my kitchen, because I want to go and sit in a cafe around other actual human beings just for half an hour. And it's a nice walk. And it's something that keeps me mentally stable, sort of. And it helps. I think companies should be encouraging that side of things. Be a real person, have a life as well.
Yeah, and you could question their motivations. They're only encouraging me to go get coffee because they think it'll make me more productive when I come back if I have 15 milligrams of caffeine in my system. Okay, sure, their motivations suck. That doesn't mean it's not good for you to take that break.
Yeah, you want a win-win situation where everybody has something that benefits from the situation, right? So maybe that's what companies should do is instead of trying to get their employees, so trying to come up with like technological solutions to get their employees to like be more sociable together, like the donut on Slack, which I never thought worked. Is the if anybody's not familiar, it's like it's like this add-on that like randomly connects two people who are on the same Slack server and then forces them to have a conversation with each other. It's a sort of excruciating.
I actually kind of liked it.
Well, it can turn out all right, but it can be fucking horrible. I mean, I've had some people like, I do not want to speak to this person. I don't like. You can opt out, but then it's like, okay, what does it say about me as an employee? What is my boss going to think?
Was everybody opting out of talking to you, Peter? Is that the problem?
Oh my god, maybe that's it. Maybe that's maybe. Oh, now I'm getting paranoid. Thanks, Mike.
That's why. That's why you hate it.
But no, maybe employers should be giving us like a social fund. Hey, here's money to go out and have fun with your friends.
Yeah.
Or go out and make friends, or go out and just be around other people, even if they're not your friends.
Yeah, benefits like gym memberships. I think things like that are great, for sure.
Yeah, they're relatively low cost, but just they're never. Yeah, it's one of those things that are not seen as by the company as being worthwhile. But I think they're maybe undervaluing that.
Yeah, and this still is kind of you know, if you're talking about employee welfare and corporate motivations, this still just kind of is like chipping away around the edges, because the core problem is just capitalism. Ultimately. I mean, in the U.S., we had a presidential candidate talk about setting up tent cities for homeless people. Like, let's not do anything to address the root causes of homelessness. Let's not deal with unemployment. Let's just create a little farm that we can send these people off to. And I think the stuff with capitalism and back to work is so tied up with just the idea of work reform. If we can't, and I don't know if UBI's, the universal basic income, is the only solution, but it's got to be part. Like, there's no excuse for it. It goes against our ingrained belief that it's important to work for a living and be productive. But I think we're at the point where the fact is we don't need 10 billion people to do the work that needs to be done. And so if you just don't have jobs for those people, you can't then turn around and punish them for being unemployed. Like, we don't need them to work. There's nothing wrong with that. Just let them do something else.
Like nothing. It's okay. Nothing. That's the core problem. I said it before. Like, the idea that it's okay not to do anything or to do nothing is just unacceptable to some people, and that's the reason why UBI has never been accepted.
Because the fear is that, like, if I think, man, if I didn't have to, if I wasn't obligated to work, I wouldn't. So I assume nobody would. But that's not true. Yeah. People like working. People have jobs that they enjoy.
Yeah.
Now,
there's tons of reasons.
Are there shit jobs that nobody wants to do that you'd have to incentivize more for? Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you have to pay more for service jobs that people only take because they feel like they have to make that more attractive if we want that to be done. But that's how capitalism works, supply and demand.
I don't even necessarily think that would be true, because so universal basic income, from my version of it in my head, is that you give everybody enough to live and eat. So they've got something to live and they can eat, but just the bare minimum, just so they don't starve and they don't go cold and, you know, don't die of hunger or whatever. But if you want anything above that bare minimum, then you need to go out and get a job. And what you do can still be going to work at McDonald's. You know, it can just be a lazy job that you do 3 days a week and you just get a bit of extra money. And it's not very much, but it's just lets you go to party once a month or whatever. Or you can do something else, or you can work on maths algorithms, or you can whatever. But as long as you're kind of happy and not dying is the sort of main thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which we absolutely have the resources to do.
100%.
We just have to get
in the end, I think.
The will to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. It's probably another, we'll have to talk about it in more depth, but I think it ultimately comes down to our desire to control not just other people, but like the situation that we're in, which includes other people.
Yeah.
And whenever we feel that we're not in control, we start to do things to be more in control. And I think that's the sort of root of basically everything. All the kind of bad things, some good things as well, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, throw a little greed in there and nailing capitalism. I don't know. I think it all kind of comes down to control still. But anyway, that's a whole other topic, which you can see in our new upcoming series, Not So Clothed Upstate. That's the NSCU After Dark. Oh, that's right. Fans only? Yeah. OnlyFans.
On OnlyFans. Had a genuine question, I think, from Iron Test, who actually believed we may have been planning something like that. If you didn't really believe that, then you got me, man, because like he asked a question on YouTube comments. Are you really doing something?
We are going to do it.
Yeah, I had to tell him, like, well, you're going to have to wait and see, because it's in the works if you're willing to pay, obviously. But hey,
I don't think I worked on my OKRs for that this week.
Down there. No? Really?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I'll have to update my KPIs on that one.
Well, speaking of that, unfortunately, we might have some bad news for you, Mike. And if John's not back next week, then this may be a very different podcast.
Mm-hmm. Good luck. Good luck with that. Let me know how that goes. Have fun.
Yeah, the video editing might be a bit tricky, but I can muddle through.
All
if
right,
it's audio only next week,
see ya.
No, just no surprise. I'm gonna end up having to rehire you at 10 times the cost for consult TV.
Some Elon Musk shit. Like, everyone's fired. Oh shit! Who's the guy that edits the video?
Did a little video editing.
We need that guy back.
Yeah. All right, that's a fun episode. Catch you later, guys. Oh, subscribe, join Discord, whatever. Validate our existence.